Friends, it's Everything Mayer, your favorite John Mayer fan podcast. I am your host, Tom Butwin, back again for another episode. I have not been this excited about an episode of this show in quite some time. I've had two big episodes this year, one after meeting and talking to John for a length of time out in LA, and then when I got to interview Paul Reed Smith. If you've missed either one of those episodes, go back and check them out. But for the time being, stay here because we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about what I believe, thanks to one of you kicking this off, is going to be the next single, the new single. And then I have some insider info on the new Silver Sky that John Mayer is playing at the Dead & Company shows this weekend. And then we're going to talk about those Dead & Company shows and what I think they mean for the future of that enterprise. So let's start off with the most exciting thing, which is a prediction about what the newest single, the next single is going to be. And I have to, and I'm checking my phone here, I have to thank YouTube user Harmless Heartbreak for this. So, because it's kind of interesting. If you're a songwriter, there are performing rights organizations out there. And the two most common songwriter organizations that collect royalties from public performances of your songs, if you're a songwriter, are ASCAP and BMI. If you're old enough to remember opening a CD case and reading the liner notes, you remember seeing, songs written by John Clayton Mayer, parentheses, maybe ASCAP, let's say. Now, if you looked at anything after 2013, next to Mayer's name, you would see Global Music Rights. Now, this is an organization that they're not really competing, but when you're a songwriter, you go and you sort of not pledge your allegiance. They're free to join, but you assign your catalog to one of these companies. Now, I do have original music out there. I haven't written anything or released anything in more than 10 years, but it's out there. It's associated with BMI, and like 3 times in the last 20 years, I've gotten a check in the mail, which is hysterical because it got played on the radio, or it was something like that. That's what that's there for. It's a kind of a catch-all, and John Mayer's entire catalog is with GMR, Global Music Rights. Now, this is interesting because Global Music Rights is the new kid on the block. ASCAP and BMI have been around forever. But in 2013, Irving Azoff, now if you know a little bit about the back end of how the Mayer enterprise works, John's management, his manager, his management company is owned by Irving and Jeffrey Azoff. So Irving Azoff started Global Music Rights in 2013, and John's entire catalog is with GMR. Now, if you go through, you will notice some of the songs, like from Room for Squares, where he wrote them with Clay Cook, like No Such Thing and Back to You, and I can't remember which other ones were shared co-writes, but you'll see like a percentage of that is actually to Clay Cook, who is now in Zach Brown Band. And that'll be like ASCAP, like 25%. It's very interesting. You see like on some of those tunes, like John's got, 75% and Clay's got 25%, and their attorneys or, management somehow worked all that out. Now, here's the interesting thing. Thanks to, one more time, Harmless Heartbreak. I don't know your real name, but that's your name on YouTube. They're kind of must be a nerd like me. Or maybe you're a songwriter. That'd be really cool if I find that out. Harmless Heartbreak, let me know. But they peruse John's catalog on there, and they notice something very interesting. And through some back and forth comments, some of which they're public, so if you've been paying attention on the recent videos, you would have noticed this. There was a way that we've determined what I think there's a pretty strong likelihood is going to be the next single. It's a song we already know, and I'm teasing it over and over and over again. But there were 2 songs added, because that was my question. I was like, well, there's no dates to show when these songs are added to GMR in his catalog there. But using the Internet Wayback Machine, Harmless Heartbreak, and from me prompting this question, was able to determine that 2 songs in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 months have been added. Now, one of them being Drive, which is the collaboration with Ed Sheeran, Blake Slatkin for the F1 The Movie soundtrack. And the other, drum roll please, Driftin'. Driftin'. So you're going to remember Driftin' as one of the handful of tunes that were new from the solo acoustic tour. It had In the Neighborhood, Why Anyone Has to Go, Driftin'. I think I'm forgetting another one. And, you know, a lot of us have been wondering, and I should have asked John this he said, "What do you want to ask me?" And I didn't think of this, but I should have asked. I said, "Hey, what from the solo tour, if anything, is going to make it onto this new record you're working on?" So that's it. This is, and I went through and we both looked. There's no other song from the solo tour added to this, the GMR list. So that means, in my mind, that there are plans for this song. Now I'm not going to go 100% on this, and that's because if you look through the GMR catalog of Mayer's, you've got things in there like Drone Shot of My Yacht is actually in there. So you know, it stands to reason. You could look at that and you could say, okay, well, Drone Shot of My Yacht is in there, so what does adding Driftin' really mean? Like, because I doubt he's going to put Drone Shot of My Yacht out on a record, which I mean, I think it'd be hilarious if he did, but the thing that really narrows it down for me, it makes me think the Driftin' is going to be the single, probably coming sooner than later, is the fact that that's the only song that's been added that we've been exposed to in the last, you know, however many years since the solo tour happened. So that is it. You heard it here first, thanks to one of your own, Heartless Heartbreak, confirmed by me and my suspicion on this as well. Driftin' is going to be the first single. There's the prediction. It's August 3rd, 8:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is the timestamp of this prediction. Hopefully this ages well. We'll see. So now that you know what time I'm filming this, you know that Dead & Company is, I think they're almost on stage for night 3 out in San Francisco. And night 1 and 2, I did not buy the live stream, but I did watch the first song preview that Nugs puts on YouTube. And what was interesting about this is that the first night I noticed something, and it was the guitar John's playing, and it's Silver Sky, of course, and it has the prototype sticker right below the bridge, or what appeared to be a prototype sticker. And given the lighting pictures I was seeing on Instagram, I was like, is that the faded black tee Silver Sky? I'm not sure. But then I remembered back to my visit to the PRS factory at the end of May. Now, I do have inside information. I know exactly what's going on with this new guitar and the new color, but I can't tell you, and this is not big stuffing, but I cannot tell you everything that I know. But I will just tell you that it is a new color, and it is not inspired by anything that you would ever guess. That's all I can say. But I got the full story when I was out there, and it was super cool to have the curtain kind of peeled back on that one. So, it was a lot of fun, and not many times in my life have I ever been able to say I have, like some proprietary information as to what's going on that I can't share for fear of retribution. I would never do that, of course. But really cool though. I mean, it's fun because you look at this big weekend of shows. And Mayer is so design minded that it's just like nothing is an accident. His outfit coordinates with the new color of the Silver Sky that may or may not be in production. I have no idea if it's going to be a mass available to us or not. But I do know what it's called, but I'm not going to tell you, or at least what they were calling it at the time. That could obviously change. So, and again, I don't know if it's going to be available. I mean, I love the color. I think it looks so cool on stage. It looks great with what he put together with the outfits night 1 and 2. What's so funny is he was wearing some Hoka shoes on night 1. And I saw on Reddit, like people were like, "Hey, what shoes are those?" And I'm like, "I know those kind of look cool. I like those shoes." So I went to Hoka's website, and I found them, thanks to somebody else's link, and they were just flying. I think they literally labeled flying off the shelves, and then they were all sold out. So the Mayer effect is real, and certainly with a new color of one of his guitars, is Silver Sky, that effect would be real as well. The same thing happened with Faded Black Tea. He did play the Faded Black Tea guitar for a while before that was announced, so none of us really knew. I forget what we were calling it at that time. But this one, this is like some guitar nerdery here, but I thought it almost looked like back to the satin mock sand color. But, upon closer inspection, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. So, very exciting, to see, something on stage that's new in that realm, and just keeping that guitar fresh. Paul Reed Smith finishes are just awesome. Like, it's one of the best parts about those guitars. They sound great, they feel great, but then all the finishes are really super cool, especially when you know that Mayer is so involved with the development of them. And speaking of things that he is involved in the development of, let's talk about Dead & Company as I take a sip of tea here. And where we're going. These 3 shows come on the tail end of the the second Sphere residency. Bob Weir's not getting any younger. How long does he want to keep going? I think is the question for Dead & Company. And when Bob decides, yeah, you know what, I think I need to, they already stopped touring, but even something like the Sphere residency is just something I don't want to do. What's going to happen to Dead & Company after that? I don't know what the entity Dead & Company, what will happen to that if Bob decides that he doesn't want to do it anymore. But what I will say is, just looking at this weekend, on night 1, you had Billy Strings joining Dead & Company. On night 2, you had Sturgill Simpson. And tonight, I would have to imagine Trey Anastasio is going to be up there as well. And it just shows me, and this is not a hot take, but this music is going to live on far beyond any of the original Grateful Dead members who are playing it. So it's really, and I'm not a Deadhead. I'm in the interested in that community because of John Mayer, which I think is amazing, because there are very few people I think they could have put in that spot who could draw people who ordinarily would not be interested in that music in the way John Mayer has. And, obviously he does that through having a massive fan base of his own. But also I think he does that because of the care he took in learning the language of the Grateful Dead musically, diving so deeply into it. That is what allows such a organic and authentic entrance into the music for people like me through John Mayer. So I think that, in some way, shape, or form, it may not be Dead & Company. It might be something new entirely, where it's some people from Dead & Company, but maybe it features other guests rotating in, kind of like they're doing on these 3 shows. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know how long they can keep going, Dead & Company, how long they should keep going. I don't know. Anytime you get into a catalog and a fan base that's this deep, you get comparisons from night to night. Oh, they're off tonight. Oh, they're on fire tonight. Oh, the tempos are crazy. Or, oh, Bob Weir's guitar tone's no good tonight. Oh man. I've seen it with the Dave Matthews Band fans, like, complaining about set lists and different things. And I think it just, when a fan base is as rabid as some of these fan bases are, I mean, look at us. We're talking about John Mayer. I have a John Mayer podcast for God's sake. So, you can get into some weird zones where you're like criticizing things. And I wonder, sometimes, I was reading some things about what was, show Friday versus the show Saturday, and you talking about Bob and is he up to the task? And it's like, yes, he is. I mean, what, this you're celebrating 60 years of Grateful Dead music, and Bob Weir's been there for all 60 of them. So, I think that's a pretty amazing feat. And I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. I'm sure I hope there's another Sphere residency, because I want to go. I haven't gone yet. So hopefully there is. I hope he can keep going forever. But I don't know. It's just interesting to me because there's a lot of different takes. Some people are still not sold on Mayer in Dead and Company, which I guess I don't understand. Obviously, I'm coming at it from a different angle. But all these guys who have played the role, let's say, of Jerry Garcia, have done it, in an honorable way, honoring Jerry, if at least as far as I can tell, to include John Mayer. So I mean, and none of them have tried to be Jerry Garcia. No one's doing. If you go see a Grateful, and probably in your town, wherever you are, there's probably a few Grateful Dead cover bands, and and this is not to. There's probably really great ones out there. It's not to slight anyone who's doing that. Like if you're going to do that, should be going to the source material and trying to capture that magic at whatever instrument you're playing. If you happen to be playing the Jerry parts, great, and learning that language. But the cool thing for me that I find so interesting about these guys who have stepped in is that they're artists in their own right. And again, not to slight anybody, I would be in the exact same situation. I don't have a voice on the guitar the way John Mayer or Trey or Billy Strings has a voice on an instrument. So if I was doing it, I would just be trying to learn the language from the source material and do as best as it'd be like learning a Beethoven piece or a Bach piece. Like, I'm not trying to be Tom Butwin playing that. I'm trying to play what was originally written and not recorded in those cases, but written, and that's the cool thing about this music, is that it allows someone like John Mayer, who is an artist. He is an instantly recognizable guitar player when he starts playing. He has learned this language, captured Jerry Garcia and the vibe of Grateful Dead and the musical language of it, but he still sounds like him, all while doing that, which to me is amazing. You don't have to like John Mayer's music. You don't even have to like his guitar playing, but you have to admit that that's true. That, though, is what is going to continue to make this music live on, however they decide to do it. So this, I'm not looking at this 60th anniversary weekend as like the end of anything. I don't think anybody's really looking at it that way. Hopefully it's not. But certainly you have to start asking the question, like, well, what's the future? Mayer's considerably younger. Jeff Clementi, O'Teal, what are they all going to do? Are they going to keep going? How is it going to keep going? I mean, they've all been involved in different projects, that kind of like orbit this world. So I think that we will continue and we'll continue to see it. Mayer will probably be the steward of it because he's already so heavily involved in the creative side of what goes on with Dead and Company, just with visuals and all that sort of thing. So exciting things to come, no doubt, whether it's new music from Mayer, new Silver Sky colors, or a new form of Grateful Dead music being played forever and ever. And that applause means it is time for the after dinner mint. One more sip of tea as we talk more freely and not, just for the people who have stuck around for 18 minutes and 30 seconds here. It'd be a short after dinner mint tonight. So yes, I am always astonished by the resourcefulness of all of you out there. And I've been helped along by many of you in many ways, we message back and forth, and I appreciate it so much. I'm so sorry if I don't get back to you in a timely manner. I'm trying to be better about that. But I'm fortunate to get a lot of messages, which is really cool. So it just means that it's harder for me to respond to all of them. But so many of you, there's a core group who I wish I could get you all in one room someday and just give you a big hug, because it's just like, it's so fun to do this. And you discover things and alert me to things like, songs being added to performing rights catalogs and things like that. And then hopefully I can share things back with you about what I've learned and what I get from my side here talking to people. So tons of fun. What do you think? I didn't ask this at the beginning, but what are your thoughts on Driftin' being the first single? If I'm being honest, that is one of the songs that I connected with. Not that I didn't connect with it, but there were others of the new songs on the solo tour that I enjoyed more in that setting. Why Anyone Has to Go was probably my favorite. But I went back and I listened to Driftin' again, and there's some that one, I will say, from the recordings from the solo tour, that now looking back feels like the most fully formed song. I know as Why Anyone Has to Go progressed, it didn't have a bridge initially. And then later on, maybe it was like the second or third leg of the solo tour, it had a bridge. So it's still being worked out. But Driftin' felt like it's got some really great themes in it, like vocal, like melody motifs. It's got the really cool Mayer thing where at the end of the song, he brings in a vocal motif that you've not heard before at any point in the song. He's a master of doing that in the last chorus of a song. So cool. We got to do a whole episode on that at some point. But so I'm warming up to the idea, and I'm really interested to hear the treatment that it gets, because when you hear a song only performed on an acoustic guitar or piano, it's hard to imagine. Everything seems like a slow song. Is kind of what ends up happening, unless it's something like Neon. But you don't get the context of the recording when you haven't heard it before. So imagine, for example, Edge of Desire. If you had only ever heard it on an acoustic guitar with vocal, and that was it, you would think like, oh, this is probably something, it's kind of like Satellite by Dave Matthews Band. It's that vibe, because the riff kind of sounds that way. And it's got that kind of like mid-tempo, kind of just chill sort of thing. And I'm thinking of an Edge of Desire that does not have the epic solo tour outro. But then, if you went back and you listened to the record of that, you would hear this massive wall of guitars and this great guitar solo and this outro that is like one of the best musical moments ever. You would have never. So that's why I'm looking at him when he plays these songs solo acoustic, Driftin' being one of them, Why Anyone Has to Go being another. And I'm like, what does he hear in his head that we don't hear? Because all we hear is an acoustic guitar and vocal. But I know he hears more than that. He hears what the drums are doing. Here's what the other guitars are doing. Here's what the backing vocals are doing. Here's what keyboards or anything else that's in the texture and landscape of the song. He hears all that. I think sometimes you can see it in his body language as he's playing. Like Why Anyone Has to Go, for example, I don't think that's this like downtrodden, sad feel. I think it's kind of like got a boppy dance vibe to it, like at that tempo, obviously. But if you watch his body language playing that song, I think that's what he's hearing in his head. That's just my opinion as a fellow, far less accomplished musician. So that being said, I think that's going to do it for tonight. It's going to do it for tonight. Some insights. But I want to know, how do you feel about the Driftin' thing? If I'm right. So if we're right, I should say. And what do you think of that new color? What appears to be a new color on the Silver Sky. Let me know in the comments. As always, if you want to support the show, please subscribe to the channel. You can join as a member, get some behind the scenes, extra content. And that's it. I'm trying to get back to the weekly thing. We're on week 2 of the weekly thing. It's going well. I look forward to hearing from you all. We'll see you next week.